In this video, we're going to take a look at the novel Cat's Cradle, and we'll put an old trade version up against one that was recently released from the Folio Society.
Kurt Vonnegut's novel Cat's Cradle was first published in 1963. It's a darkly humorous look at the absurdity of science and faith, and is the author's fourth novel. The book is made up of 127 brief chapters, which gives it a frantic pace. It moves about from one wacky character to the next, from one absurd incident to another, as it builds its satire about the follies of a great many human pursuits. The novel is a first-person account of a struggling writer named John, who's trying to write a book about the everyday incidents that occur on the same day that America dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. This research eventually puts John on the trail of the Honaker family, as Felix Honaker is remembered as the father of the atomic bomb. As the narrator makes inquiries of the deceased Felix and his wife, he eventually learns of the 3 surviving members of the Honaker family. Every single other character that he meets has a bold, opinionated voice and wild idiosyncrasies. This only heightens the frantic pace of the novel, because John is interacting with this long string of characters as he travels around and gathers information for his book. A tiny fraction of that frenetic energy is eased once John arrives on the island of San Lorenzo. The narrative settles down a bit, and at least it operates in one location, which allows for more focused plot development. Beyond the science fiction elements, which are most prevalent in the novel's second half, one of the most compelling and creative things that it presents is this imagined religion called Bacchanalism. This cynical yet surprisingly profound set of imaginary beliefs threads through the whole book, from the prescript to the final scene. The narrator often shares Bacchanalian aphorisms and philosophies that attempt to make sense of a world that makes no sense at all. The novel is named after its central symbol. A cat's cradle is something that we pretend to see when we know there's really nothing there. In the string game, the chords form geometric shapes, but with no distinct cat or cradle. But still, we squint and stare at the X's and pretend that we see something. It becomes a symbol for the lies we tell ourselves about reality. And over the course of the novel, the author applies it to politics, religion, militarism, colonialism, and love. And it's all presented with the absurd humor and heartbreaking madness that is Kurt Vonnegut's distinct signature.
I first encountered the novel through this Dial Press trade version, which features a cover design that matches their other Vonnegut releases. They were available in the larger trade format and the smaller mass-market pocketbook versions. But this design always has the small image at the top, a bold V down the middle, and the author and the title in contrasting colors. This copy of Cat's Cradle was printed in 2006 and doesn't feature any extras at all. However, it does present the novel in an easy-to-read format, with a large font, generous spacing, and a pleasant layout. I've always enjoyed Vonnegut's unique sense of humor, and find his books easy to read, so when the Folio Society announced that they were including Cat's Cradle in their most recent collection, I decided to go for it. Let's do this. And here we have Cat's Cradle from the Folio Society. This just might be illustrated luxury edition perfection. This version just came out in 2022 and is presented in an illustrated blue slipcase with a geometric cat's cradle image in blue foil on one side. The book itself has a cover designed by Junho Ko. The front features a collage-style image that combines human and geometric architectural elements. The reflective blue from the slipcase is used for the string here, which holds the whole image together beautifully. It's presented on something called soft touch laminated paper, which is really interesting to handle. It's just slightly tacky like MacTac, but in the best way. I think it's going to wear and clean up very nicely. On the spine, we note the title in the reflective blue, an atomic flourish lifted from the cover image, the author name in white, and a whimsical take on the Folio logo, also in reflective blue. The binding is finished with a gold and copper headband, and the binding itself is done very well. It has none of the tightness that I've recently encountered in other Folio editions, and I never found myself fighting it while I read. When we crack the book open, we're met by plain blue-gray end papers in a slightly darker hue than the color from the cover or the slipcase. The book is presented on Folio's normal Abbey wove paper, and the atomic flourish from the cover and spine is echoed a third time on the title page. When we bring back the Dial Trade Edition for a brief side-by-side, we see that the Folio Society version is bigger, with an extra 4 centimeters in height and just over 3 centimeters in width. The The font size isn't any larger in the folio version, but we get a few more lines per page, and the higher quality paper and darker ink does improve the contrast. The introduction is written by frequent folio contributor Michael Dierda. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning book critic for the Washington Post and is also a writer himself. He details a brief interaction he had with Vonnegut and sets the novel up in terms of the author's previous and later novels. Dierda also summarizes the story and explores some of its themes, finishing by discussing the novel's eventual success. This introduction is 9 pages long and is solid, despite one tiny typo right here. Artist Junho Ko provides 7 interior illustrations here. He has a distinct style to his digital work, often employing flat figures and geometric designs. The other art I've seen from him suggests that he works with a signature color palette, with muted blues and greens and bold oranges, usually on a gray background. His line work is interesting, with bold, heavy block shapes in the foreground, balanced by fine lines for the background details and architectural elements. This results in a style that is clearly modern, but with spiritual aspects as well, making it a perfect pairing for this particular novel. The art is presented on a glossy, thicker stock, and the images all land within 10 pages of the text they coincide with. Let's take a detailed look at the artwork now. The first illustration, the frontispiece, is built on a geometric base of hexagons and cubes. It's a depiction of the compound called Ice 9, and it employs symmetry beautifully. We've got the snowflake as the hub of the design, with atomic details and natural elements like the moon and clouds in orange around it. We're going to see these particular colors carry over into the rest of the work. The second piece is a portrait of Felix Honaker, as his son Newt remembers him on the one occasion when the father ever tried to play with his child. Newt recalls how ugly his father was up close, as he showed the boy the cat's cradle string game. The artist has taken care to include these details like the hairy ears and nose, and the mix of bold lines, medium weight, and lightweight lines gives this image an appropriately unsettling quality. I love the effect that the strings have over the back fingers here. The third illustration is of the phallic memorial the Honaker children erected to their late mother. It's a comic and dark scene from the book, but Junho Ko includes some beautiful details at the base with the weathered vegetation. Fine orange lines are used for snowflake and graveyard imagery that serve as flourishes around the central image. Notice the thin echo of a car in the memorial here? This is a really nice touch as it recalls the particular details that led to Emily Honaker's unfortunate demise. The fourth image is my favorite of the bunch, not just because of the bold orange that surrounds it. It depicts little Newt Honaker sitting on an airplane, sipping his champagne. The cross-section effect is really cool here. It allows the figure to stand out despite sitting in an airplane seat, but it also enables us to see the cargo stowed underneath. The shard of Ice 9 in its thermos glows ominously below him. The fifth illustration is of a flashback to when the bubonic plague hit the House of Hope and Mercy, a hospital in the San Lorenzo jungle. Julian Castle shines a flashlight on the pile of bodies he's failed to save, as they dealt with 1,400 deaths inside of 10 days. There's an appropriate darkness to this image. It looks as if the dead may be ascending up the beam of orange light. Other details add to the unsettling state of this image, like the creepy little eye on top of the flashlight. And note these weird little soul balls traveling up the orange. We're going to see them again. The sixth image is fantastic. It features a male and female figure engaging in the act of boku maru, where they intertwine their souls by pressing together the soles of their feet. There's a beautiful elegance to their yoga-like pose, and the X-ray effect lets us see their minds and hearts light up as their feet come together. The orange draws our attention to the echoes of kissing faces in their feet. We've got more delicate line work used for the background legs and arms here, as well as other background elements like these little incense holders and the text at the bottom of the page. The final image is of the tragedy that unfolds during the celebration of the Day of 100 Martyrs to Democracy. As the handful of planes that make up the San Lorenzan Air Force fly in formation, one accidentally crashes into the side of a cliff, causing devastation. We can see figures and silhouettes falling to their deaths as the flames coil up and the water stretches out. We also get that same bald soul effect that we saw back on image 5. This particular design element isn't limited to just Junho Ko's work in Cat's Cradle, but features in some of his other work too. I'm really loving this edition of Cat's Cradle. It's one of the silver spoons of my collection. In my opinion, it's an example of Folio Society perfection. and is the best of any release I've yet reviewed on this channel. And if you want one yourself, it's currently available from Folio Society's website. At 3 to 4 times the cost of a new paperback edition, it's an expensive upgrade, but the value is there. This is an instance where every single element of the design comes together in one cohesive presentation. It's also very well built, so it'll hold up to multiple readings, and will still look great on your shelf. As for my old edition, it's going straight to the box of doom. Perfect. So I can make more room for more great books. As always, thanks for watching, and if you'd like more content, stay tuned to this channel or circle back to previous videos. Flawless victory.